Hey guys, I'm back to do my review of episode 2 of the show Push Girls. I'm sorry that my reviews are all wonky as far as when I'm uploading them, but I didn't have a computer working for a couple of weeks, so I'm behind. But I'm uploading episodes 2 and 3 today, my reviews of them, so I should be back on track for the episode on Monday night. The show starts out with Autee wheeling out of her room with her dog in her lap, which I thought was really cute. Her and her husband are eating at the kitchen table, and she talks about this big ballroom competition that is going on, but it's with all able-bodied people. So she would be the only person in the competition that's in a wheelchair. Her husband tells her that this is like the next level of being a competition because she would have to work extra hard. His concerns weren't just about the wheelchair because he's in love with her. He doesn't just look at her for that. His concern also was that she's coming into a ballroom competition with no ballroom background. She's coming in as a dancer with hip-hop background. Autee grew up in a really rough area, and hip-hop dancing was her escape, as well as singing and acting. When she was 22 years old, she had actually just gotten done performing with LL Cool J on the Grammys, but that was the last time that she ever danced as an able-bodied person. The night of Autee's accident, she had been struggling with money and went to go borrow $500 from a male friend of hers. And in return, she basically sold herself to him. And of course, after she left, she felt worthless and used, and her mind just wasn't right on the ride home. And that's when she had her accident. A car cut her off on the freeway, and when she slammed on the brakes, her car spun out of control. She snapped her back in half and completely severed her spinal cord. After she woke up, the doctor had told her mother that she would never walk or dance again, which goes to show how much they know that all you gotta do is get creative. While Autee was in the hospital, her physical therapist played her a song that really gave her the drive to get through everything that was now on her plate and to really figure out a way to pursue her passion for dancing. At that moment, her attitude toward everything changed because she realized she could have died, but she didn't. And she looked at it like it was a second chance at life for her. She said the same thing that all dancers that I've ever come across say, which is once a dancer, always a dancer. And she said that she was going to try to figure out a way for this contraption attached to her ass, or glued to her ass, to make it work with dancing. That's when the show kind of scared the crap out of me because they started to show her doing tricks and stuff in the chair as she talks about how she started to experiment with it and feel comfortable maneuvering it. And me, being 25 years in a wheelchair, I wouldn't even feel comfortable doing half the things that I saw her do. I thought all the girls going downstairs in the wheelchair was scary. This was 10 times worse, but she found a way to make it work for her with her dancing. Her husband was teasing her that maybe this competition will teach her to let somebody else lead. And again, that just showed their cute banter that I love in the show. Then the next scene was Mia driving in her car, and again she talks about her independence and how she still strives to keep it, because from experience, a lot of people that are in chairs, that's the first thing they lose. And if you're independent before, I can't imagine how much you would strive to keep that. Then it showed her going into work, which I really, really admired about her in this episode, because a lot of people, whether they're born with a physical challenge or they have an accident or an injury of some kind that ends them up with a physical challenge, a lot of them will just roll over and let Social Security handle it. And I've always strived to have, even if it's only a part-time job, I strive to have a job. So I really admired her going out and having a job. I've actually talked to people who are less paralyzed than me, who are just so okay with not doing anything. And I'm like, that's not a life. Like, well, I can't do this because of this. I have full range of my hands. You could work a desk job. You could work a job to start with that'll get you somewhere else. You know, I don't see a reason to let the chair stop you to do anything. Mia says how she talks to most clients on the phone for a long time, and then they're surprised when they see that she's in a chair. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, not because of her, but because of them. It made me feel like, what are people with physical challenges that are in chairs supposed to sound down and depressed, and they're not supposed to be peppy and lively? If it's in the job description to answer the phones, no matter what your situation is, you're supposed to be peppy and lively. Now, coming from a desk job, I can understand, like, at the end of the day, being a little tired of some people that you encounter on the phone and not being so peppy, but that has nothing to do with the chair. Then she talks about how she keeps herself strong mentally, but how that sometimes could be a bad thing, where she becomes too strong mentally and shut off a little bit emotionally. Then it switches to Angela and Tiffany's house, and Angela is doing the chanting from, I believe it's either Stella Got Her Groove Back or What's Love Got to Do with It, but it's Angela Bassett, I know that for sure. You know, the Nam Myoho Renge Kyo thing? That's what she was doing. And Tiffany was in her standing frame thing, which is something I should probably get, to keep you stretched. And it's kind of distracting whatever work she's doing. The chanting is kind of distracting whatever work Tiffany's doing, so she's like, you know, can you change it up a little bit? And then Angela wheels in and she's like, my chanting bothers you? And Tiffany's like, well, I just don't know what you're saying. Then Angela makes a joke how in sex you don't know what you're saying, but you just say things that don't make sense. And Tiffany's like, yeah, because it's good. Angela says how Tiffany always says what's on her mind, which is becoming very obvious, and she says how she'll be a friend for life. Then we go to Autie's dance rehearsal. She met her dance partner, Benito, when she was working on a movie, and he was one of the choreographers. The big problem that they ran into is that Autie's in LA and Benito is from New York. So he only had 2 days to work with her before this competition. That didn't really bother him. He said he was game for last minute, and this was going to be a new challenge for him anyway, because he had never worked with somebody in a wheelchair before. And of course it was going to be a challenge because she didn't have any ballroom dancing background. His main goal was to make people look past the chair and not have it be where they look, oh, look at that girl in the chair trying to dance. He wanted people, the audience and the judges, to look and find critiques. Is there cha-cha rhythm and stuff like that? which I can understand because I watch Dancing with the Stars, and that's how the choreographers strive to teach their students. They want the judges to see that they know what they're doing in the specifics of each dance. At this point, Aughty gets really nervous that she'll forget her routine, and Benito jokes that he wants her to do so good and for everybody to be so blown away that they think she's just going to jump out of the chair. The next scene was Mia and her boyfriend out to dinner, and he asks her if she wants to transfer into a regular chair, which I never do that. I mean, I'm not hating on her for it, I just never do that. Again, Mia starts to talk about not wanting to lose her independence and her hesitations with moving in with him. Then her boyfriend Dave starts talking about the first night that he met Mia. They were both at a bar, and she was there to meet one of his friends who turned out to be a mutual friend between the two. And what her boyfriend said really bothered me at this point. He said nobody ever sees themselves as the guy who's going to date someone in a chair. Why not? I mean, I guess I can't really hate on him because, like I said in my past video, I usually go for guys that are able-bodied, like Tiffany does, so I guess it's by the same token. It just seems a little offensive the other way around, but I guess it could be offensive towards guys in chairs if I'm interested in able-bodied, so I guess I kind of can't totally hate on him, but I just didn't like the way it came out, maybe. He said how that night, once he got to know Mia, that he completely forgot about the chair, and that's what I think everybody's goal is or should be in a chair. To make everybody around you forget that you're in a chair. Because able-bodied people don't look at each other, oh, you're walking. You know, it doesn't matter how you get from point A to point B. You're still the same person. And that's what should matter. At this point, a little boy walks by with his mom, and Mia asks Dave why he doesn't want kids. So at this point, you see it become a reoccurring issue in their relationship, which turns out to be a problem. Then Mia talks about another one of the misconceptions about people in wheelchairs, in that a lot of people don't realize that they can have kids the same way able-bodied people can. Do it the old-fashioned way and have it the old-fashioned way. Then Dave started to talk about how Mia sends him mixed signals because sometimes she'll say things like, you know, all I care about is being with you, you know, nothing else matters. But then it starts to come up how she really still wants kids. And I think it's to the point where, you know, you can love someone and it still just won't work out. Then Mia started to talk about how the older she gets, the more she wants kids. And, I mean, I could see where the older you get, the more you would want them, because after a certain point, women can't have kids. I mean, with new technology, I'm sure you could work something out, but, you know, most women want to be at a fairly young age with a baby. You know, their biological clock ticking type thing. Her boyfriend says how it's hard for him to not be able to promise her that they'll have kids, and she says how it's hard to let him go because she does love him. Then she says how she's not sure if she wants to risk that yet, which I didn't like and he picked up on right away. It's like, okay, so why are we going to go through the motions now if eventually that yet is going to catch up to us and that's going to be the end? Mia says how she's questioning their relationship a lot lately and how you can't have a relationship with so many doubts and concerns and questions. And that's right, you can't have a healthy relationship with so many uncertainties. If you're not sure about yourself or the other person, why stay? It's only going to hurt worse in the end for both of you. Then we go to Alti's house. She was just getting home from dance rehearsal, and she rang the doorbell because she was too sore to turn around and grab her keys. And I know I'm not in my wheelchair this week, by the way, but the lighting is better on the floor over here because I have a night table over here, and turning the camera, there would be no place for me to sit in the chair. So you're going to see a lot of these videos. I'm going to try my hardest to keep the chair in view in some of them if I'm not in it. But if I'm not, just know that I'm doing this as a physically challenged person, because I want that to get out and for people to not be ashamed to come up on YouTube and be proud of who they are. Anyway, that's my little rant. So Alti comes in the house, and her husband went to help her get settled, but she wanted a kiss first, which was really cute. My mom and dad were like that until the day he died. That's kind of, sick for a daughter to see sometimes, but it's really cute. When Alti has to use the bathroom, her husband helped her transfer from the toilet to her room, which I thought was really cute. Well, their room. And she just wouldn't shut up, because I guess she was running on adrenaline from her rehearsal. Even though she was tired, her mind just wouldn't shut up, and he picked up on that and shushed her to bed. The two of them met 5 months after her accident, and she flat out asked him if he could handle being with somebody in a wheelchair. And he said it was something that he has to handle because he loves her, which I really loved that he said that. The next day, she goes into rehearsal with no sleep, sore, and mentally and physically exhausted. And her mind just wouldn't connect, and it really started to frustrate Benito. And this is where he kind of turned into Max from Dancing with the Stars. I don't know if you guys watch it, but he's my favorite pro. And he kind of gets frustrated with his partners at times, but I think it makes him hot. Tiffany transfers to an actual bench at the table and asks if she looks real, which I thought was really funny. Then when Angela came back in, Mia asked her if anything looked different, because the girls were both behind the table. And it took Angela a second, because she doesn't look at them as people in chairs. So she's not going to notice a minute difference of somebody sitting in the chair as opposed to a bench. Tiffany says how every once in a while it's nice to do things that able-bodied people do, like sit on a bench. It doesn't really bother me, but I guess because she had the experience before, it's nice to go back and do things she used to be able to do in the same way that she used to be able to do them. So then she asks Mia if she's going to bring her boyfriend to Alti's dance competition. And she says no. She says how she's just questioning too many things in their relationship right now, and she's just not going to bring her. She opens up to the girls about how there's too many differences in what they want in the long run, and too many questions in the relationship. She says how a lot of people tell her to settle, and if anybody ever told me this, I'd probably smack them. Because a lot of people say, he accepts you in the chair, keep him. What, no other guy would? No. She has every right to want to find a guy who accepts that and everything else about her. Angela says how it's good that Mia knows what she wants, but that it comes at a cost sometimes. And then she asks Mia if she loves Dave, and Mia says, yeah, unfortunately. And she says unfortunately because if she didn't love him, it'd be easy to dump him and not even have any second thoughts about it. But because she loves him, she's hesitant to end the relationship. So Mia calls Dave over to the apartment to talk, and I had thought they lived together, but I guess not. And, they talk about the differences in the relationship, and Dave says how he's not going to stay in the relationship and have it suck. Because that's not good for either of them. I kind of didn't like how blunt he was about how it sucks, but he's right. He wasn't selfish in the sense that he was doing it because he wanted both of them to be happy, even if it wasn't together. Which, in a lot of relationships, it's one-sided. And the person who wants it doesn't care how the other person feels. And they can think it sucks, but not have enough strength within themselves to get out. Mia says how it's easy to run on adrenaline in relationships for a while, but you have to have the same goals, want the same things. And Dave asks her if she can accept him even though he doesn't want kids. Then Mia says how there's some things that you can compromise in a relationship, but having kids is like a really big long-term goal, which you can't easily change your mind on it, and especially for somebody else. You can go back and forth within yourself about whether or not you want it, but just because somebody that you love doesn't want them doesn't mean your mind's going to change. She says how she doesn't want kids right now, but she doesn't want... The way that I took it was she doesn't want to be stuck in a relationship where she can never have them. So, it would be fine and everything to stay with him right now, but it'll eventually end anyway if that issue doesn't go away. Dave starts complaining about how pushy Mia is about the kids, like trying to change his mind, and he says that you can't change your mind in a snap about something like this. And I agree with him. She shouldn't be pushy about it. I guess part of her just really, really wants to stay with him, and she wants him to change his mind, but she's gonna have to accept the fact that he's not going to. Then Dave gets kind of blunt, and he says he's not gonna stay in the relationship and have it suck the way that it has been lately. And she kind of looks shocked that he put it like that. And I was even a little shocked. Then he redeemed himself, and he says that he can't deal with the way things have been lately, and it's not good for either of them, and that neither of them are happy. So he goes back to, thinking of her as well as himself. At this point, he really, he was sticking to what he wanted, but also, respecting what she wanted, and not holding her back. And like I said, a lot of people don't do that for somebody else. They'll want to keep them regardless. Then I forgot even what he said, but he pretty much broke up with her in a few seconds flat. And it was kind of like quick and cold, but he was stuck. I couldn't really think myself of anything else he could have said at that point. Then he said how he loves her, and that's not going to go away anytime soon, and at that point I kind of bawled like a baby. Then it switches to Auntie getting ready for her competition. She said that she was so nervous she felt like she was going to puke and pee at the same time, which I thought was really funny. Not really funny, it was just funny the way that it came out. I kind of felt bad for her though, with how nervous she was. The girl's friend, Chelsea, who we get to know more and more as the season progresses, Chelsea and Mia meet up in the lobby, and Mia says in her one-on-one interview how she's not going to let what's going on with her personal life affect her supporting one of her friends. Then we get to know Chelsea a little bit more. Her car accident was about 2 years ago, and she's known the girls about 2 years. She was watching videos in the hospital of Authy dancing, and she met her, and then, the other girls from there. Tiffany does show up right around the time of Benito and Authy's last dance rehearsal. Benito's nerves get the best of him again, and he says how she's not a ballroom dancer and he's never worked somebody in a chair before, so anything can happen. And at this point, we also find out that Chelsea has been dancing since she was 2 years old. And she says how she wishes she could turn her paralysis off for 2 hours a day just to dance. Which I'm hoping Authy and her get closer in real life and as the season progresses, because she needs to realize she can still do the dancing, just in a different way. She doesn't have to lose it because she lost feeling in her legs. Especially if it was something she was that passionate about, she should try to keep it. Authy again gets nervous about, this is an able-bodied competition, what am I doing here? And, it's the right before showtime jitters. Once she got out in front of the crowd, she felt a lot better and, more comfortable and felt their energy. And she says that she thought Benito was going to fling her out of the chair. After her performance, she goes off stage and there's a group of kids that start asking her questions like, is the chair real? And things like that. And they're questions that would offend me with adults, but kids have that innocence and that curiosity where I thought the whole scene was really cute. And I really wish that kids learned even more about differences at a young age, because, they're taught generally, accept people that are different, blah, 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 but I kind of feel like it should be taken a step further about people that look really different from them. And then a lot of people wouldn't grow up to be bullies or rude or anything like that. Once they were about to announce the winners, did anybody else see one of the judges? I don't know her name because I don't watch the show, but I know what she looks like and the sound of her voice. It's like Fran Drescher from The Nanny. It's a voice that you just can't forget. It's very distinguished. She was actually at the competition right near the judges' table, so I think she probably was one of the judges, but just walking around. So that was just something funny to see. Authy and Benito actually did end up winning the competition. I was very proud of her, and I hope this expands her dancing career again. I think it would actually be pretty cool if she turned out to be a choreographer for people in wheelchairs to go to a studio and learn to dance in their chairs. And then maybe one day there will be a ballroom competition just for that. Authy ends the show saying that if people see her as a dancer for even a second and not somebody in a chair, then everything is worth it. Being in the chair is worth it. Everything she's had to go through is worth it, which I really liked. They always end the show, I'm starting to figure out, with like a very inspirational quote that I don't think they mean to be a quote, it's just how they look at life, because I have things that I say that come out like, oh, that actually sounded really good. And the biggest quote from Authy at the end was, life is full of challenges, bring them on. I want to overcome them. What did you guys think of this episode? Did you see the first episode? Are you just tuning in now? Are you going to tune in next week? Let me know what you guys think.